Alex Jones has filed a lawsuit against the Sandy Hook families. You know, I kind of felt like for a while there, for the past couple of years, the ship was just sinking, the plane was crashing, however you want to describe it. And then with the victory of Donald Trump and the sweep, we see a cultural shift. We see everybody doing the Trump shimmy, no more bending on one knee. And it feels like the ship is starting to turn upright. We don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. We get the holidays coming up. Trump's not yet president, but oh boy, man, those cabinet picks sure are something else. I am very excited for an AG Matt Gaetz. But now the news is that Alex Jones is suing the Sandy Hook families. Okay, you know, call it whatever you want, but this is a very weird timeline. Let me explain. So the Sandy Hook families sue Alex Jones some 8 or so years later because he had said that the Sandy Hook shooting incident was not real, or there were actors, something to that effect. Or I should clarify, it's very nitty gritty and very litigious, and I want to make sure I'm being very clear. I don't know the full details. It may have been that Alex Jones said, here's what people have been saying, and then entertained it as though it was fact. I believe the claim was, the lawsuit against him was that he did say these things. Alex Jones says he never named any individuals, which is a requirement. I don't know the full details of every nitty-gritty component, other than he was sued over comments he made about Sandy Hook, saying that was a hoax. He apologized that he does believe it happened. Now, the trial they had, here's where we're at, okay? Alex Jones is sued for defamation. It's a default ruling against him. He doesn't get to defend himself. The judges in the court say he's not giving over documents, so you lose. They then have a hearing on how much he has to pay. The Sandy Hook families demand the GDP of France from Alex Jones. This is not a joke, okay? And I'll go through all this stuff. The GDP of France, 2.75 trillion, to which I think it was like the judge and everyone said, okay, let's try a real number. And they got 1.5 billion, which is also not a real number that Alex Jones can pay. Here's where we're at now. Infowars is being auctioned off under the control of a trustee to pay down the debt Alex Jones has to pay to the Sandy Hook families after they won their 1.5 billion. Several companies put in bids. And what happens is the Onion, according to these lawsuits, cuts a deal with the trustee that is valued at some, I don't know, it's some abstract evaluation. They said 1.75 million in cash plus, we'll figure it out. We'll sell assets. We'll get you more money. According to the lawsuit from Alex Jones, they don't know how that's going to make sense. If this is a legal bidding process, then there's a company associated with Alex Jones that put in a bid for 3.5. And if it was an actual auction, then many of these companies would have increased their bids and gotten more money for the Sandy Hook families. The point here, they did this deal with the Onion because they're trying to just insult Alex Jones. Now, they go into great detail. We'll break it all down. But there's the gist of it. And I want to express just what a very strange timeline it is that we are now looking at Alex Jones suing the Sandy Hook families. It's like, oh, what a crazy time to be alive. Well, my friends, let's break this down. And I'm not kidding when I say the Sandy Hook families try to get the GDP of France from Alex Jones. But I also want to talk to you about why the left is losing, why the fake news machine doesn't work anymore. And we're going to give a shout out to our good friend, Destiny, because he wants me to. But I think he did us a service in exemplifying just how they all lie. And it's a really good example of why the left is losing. Now, before we jump into all that, head over to castbrew.com, buy Cast Brew coffee. You have to. It's the best coffee ever. I think I'm allowed to say that because I own it. It's an opinion. It is the greatest coffee, the number one coffee to me. We got Stand Your Grounds. We got Rise with Roberto Jr. My friends, when you buy Rise with Roberto Jr., you also get a picture of Roberto Jr. on every bag. It's on the back. You get a picture of a rooster. Support the show. We sponsor ourselves. We're expanding Casper, opening coffee shops. Become a member at timcast.com to support our work directly. Join the movement. Sign up for timcast.com. You get in that Discord server. You are hanging out with all these people, and they're saying, you're cool, man. You're a friend now. And you also get access to our uncensored members-only content on timcast.com. Well worth the watch. Here's the story from the Wall Street Journal. Alex Jones is fighting back against the proposed sale of his right-wing conspiracy website Infowars to the parent company of the satirical website The Onion. In a lawsuit filed Monday in U.S. bankruptcy court in Houston, attorneys for Jones alleged that several Sandy Hook families and The Onion's parent company, Global Tetrahedron, submitted an illegitimate bid for the assets of Infowars, parent company, and planned to misuse his intellectual property. I just want to pause. The Onion is owned by Global Tetrahedron. Is that true? I thought they made Global Tetrahedron as a joke because the joke was that the deep state cabal was buying Infowars to discredit it or something. Is the Onion's parent company actually named that? I don't know, whatever. The Onion said last week it was buying Infowars with the support of the Sandy Hook families after a trustee overseeing the sale of the assets designated Global Tetrahedron and the families as the winning bidder. The Onion said it plans to relaunch Infowars as another satirical site enlisting gun control advocacy group Everytown for Gun Safety as an advertiser. First United American Companies, a runner-up bidder associated with Jones's new online store, shopalexjones.com, filed a request last week for a judge to review the trustee's decision. The judge, Christopher Lopez, expressed some concerns about the transparency of the hearing process and ordered a hearing to review the sale, which can't be closed until it's approved. The hearing is scheduled to take place next week. First United also filed a motion Monday seeking to disqualify Global Tetrahedron's bid. Reps for the Onion and Global Tetrahedron did not immediately comment. Quote, at every step, the families we represent have sought to hold James. They say they didn't comment. Okay. At every step, the families we represent have sought to hold Jones accountable to the fullest extent of the law and to protect others from his lies, said Chris Mattei, a lawyer for the Sandy Hook families. They will not be intimidated, and they look forward to bringing this process to a just conclusion at the earliest possible date. Now, as much as I find it hilarious that Alex Jones is suing the Sandy Hook families, it's just okay. I say, who cares? You know, look, I get it. You don't want to give up Infowars. And there are some questions about Alex Jones's IP and how they're going to try and manipulate people. But I say, let them spin their wheels and sink their funds. Let me read a little bit more and I'll explain. Jones, so they said, Jones said Global Tetrahedron's bid violated the rules of the bidding process in several ways, calling it a flagrantly non-compliant Frankenstein bid. Though the rules of the bidding process mandated that parties submit a specific purchase price. He said, Global Tetrahedron's bid relied on a promise of future funds from the Connecticut families designed to be slightly higher than whatever First United bid. Without those funds, he said, Global Tetrahedron's bid was $1.75 million, far below First United's $3.5 million bid. It sounds like the Sandy Hook families offered up a debt in the purchase. Like, this is a sale of Alex. Okay, I could be wrong about this. This is a sale of Alex Jones's properties to generate funds to pay the Sandy Hook families. It sounds like the Sandy Hook families with the Onion put together a bid where the Sandy Hook families told the trustee, we will pay this amount of money to you for ourselves after the sale, right? Like, according to this law, it doesn't seem to make sense. That they say promise of future funds from the families. So the families are basically saying, with the money you give to us, we will give to them and put towards the sale, but the money doesn't exist. Okay, let me get this straight. They're basically saying that cash will be given to the trustee, to be given to the families, to be used as a debt in the purchase at a higher value to themselves. You see what I'm saying? It's like me saying, I'm going to give you $5 so that you can buy a bike to pay me $5. This seems very strange. Quote, this is not a cash bid, the lawsuit said. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying the lawsuit's alleging it. In fact, it is difficult to understand and literally impossible to value. The entire arrangement violates the bid protocols and is neither legal, moral, or ethical. Jones also sued the trustee overseeing the bidding, alleging he changed the rules of the process in a way that favored Global Tetrahedron's bid. The lawsuit said Global Tetrahedron's bid should be disqualified and First United American Companies should be declared the winning bidder. First United Monday's motion made many of the same claims, arguing it would have changed its own bid if it had known the trustee would accept one structured like Global Tetrahedron's. I got to be honest. If they would accept a debt bid like this, anyone could have made the same bid, which makes no sense. Hey, Tim Pool, I'll put up $3 million and I'll let you keep the sale of the equipment. So my value now goes up to 8.75. Or I think that would be, what would that be? That would be 9.25, I think, would be the bid if I did that. Wouldn't it make sense? Saying we're gonna liquidate hard assets and give you the cash. The lawyer for the trustee, Christopher Murray, didn't respond to a request for comment. In documents filed at the court on Monday, attorneys for Murray called First United's motion a disappointed bidder's improper attempt to influence an otherwise fair and open auction process. It wasn't an auction. Seriously, if it was an auction, they'd say, we're going once, going twice, Onion saying, we're going to do this. Then someone could respond and say, I'll pay more. Murray's attorneys also defended the decision to change the bidding process and accept the pledge from the Connecticut families. Onion, as a global tech agent, but Onion's valued offer at $7 million, the document said, adding that Murray's own review found the offer would likely outpace First United's bid under any reasonable assumptions. It literally makes no sense. Alex Jones could have made the same offer. Okay, we'll do 3.5, sell off the assets, and then add that to the deal. And then they're looking at, that would put 8.75 as their offer. 8.25 was the number I would have gotten to. There you go. Quote, he's also seeking, Alex Jones seeking an injunction. He says, I will be personally harmed if this is not done, as Tetrahedron and the Connecticut plaintiffs will not just tear down everything I've worked a lifetime to build, but they will seek to confuse my loyal following and drive them away from me. Jones placed Infowars' parent company, Free Speech System, into bankruptcy and later filed for personal bankruptcy in 2022 after years of legal fights. They're going to mention that he's been ordered to pay $965 million in damages, an additional $473 in punitive damages. They say 8 families of those who died and the FBI agent sued over false statements Jones made about the massacre in which a gunman killed 20 children, 6 adults in Newtown, Connecticut. Yeah, look, man, in the wild west of the internet, Jones said a lot of crazy stuff, and that's a reality. But I don't understand how with all of that you come to $1.5 billion and look, I don't necessarily believe everything Jones says about this. He's going to fight his fight, and I believe him more in a lot of regards. But I'll just say this, as an outside observer, this whole thing looks fishy. The Onion, the first thing I heard when the Onion bought, I was like, how does the Onion have the money to buy Infowars? And it turns out they don't. So I'm like, the resources on the right to defend Infowars are to the hundreds of millions. If that were like, if we were to make a fundraiser right now and said, save Infowars, we probably would have raised more than, we could have raised more than this. I think most people just weren't following how the bidding process was working. So this First United American Companies offered up $3.5 million and only got outbid, according to the suit and these claims, because this other company said, we don't have that much money, but we will offer as part of this deal the debt Alex Jones to the families, which they will then retain that debt. So that makes literally no sense. They're not. It makes no sense. Okay, well, whatever. My friends, first let's go here. From Bloomberg. Sandy Hook families ask judge to max out Jones penalty. Sandy Hook families said a Connecticut judge should impose the highest possible punitive damages, suggesting by one calculation that could be as high as $2.75 trillion. Okay, well, here's the France GDP. It has improved quite a bit. At the time, the GDP of this, we go back to, this is 2022. We're looking at, it's like 2.9. There you go. In 2022, it was 2.779 trillion. So they were they said Alex Jones must pay the entire gross domestic product of the country of France. And we all were like, try a real number. It reminds me of when Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, he goes to the past and he's like $100 billion. And this is, I think, the second one. And the first one is he freezes himself. And in the future, he says he wants $1 million. And they all start laughing. And they're like, okay, $1 million bucks. That's it. Like, that's nothing. And then his second in command is like, actually, that's not a lot of money these days. And he's like, really? Then when he goes back in time, so then he says $100 billion, and they're like, oh, $100 billion. Then he goes back in time and says he wants $100 billion, and they all start laughing at him again, being like, you might as well say $1 billion gajillion. That money doesn't exist. Well, there you go. This is the current state of things, right? Alex Jones. Well, we have this from the fake news media machine. So I want to let's talk about the giant ecosystem we have going on here. They say Alex Jones spreads fake news, and by all means, look, you can have whatever opinions you want, right? Alex Jones, there has a meme because while he does say crazy things like 5G towers and mutations and interdimensional beings, whatever, he also does get things right, like Epstein, and he predicted the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And everyone's kind of like, Alex Jones was right, put money in the jar. And the joke is that every time he gets it right, you put money in the jar fills up quickly because he's right a lot. And it sounds like he's going to be wrong a lot because he does say crazy stuff. Well, South dealing with Babylon Bee highlights another fake news machine, and that is the SPLC. Now, the SPLC apparently is doxing and scraping information to go after writers for Not the Bee, which is a real news website. Not the Bee is a website because, so basically the Babylon Bee has accurately predicted things hauntingly. They'll say, they'll make up a story and then a few months later it comes true because the world is so absurd. So they make Not the Bee, which highlights stories that you'd think were fake, but are not. So the Southern Poverty Law Center is going after him. And Seth Dillon points out, the SPLC has put out a statement admitting their dox and smear isn't actually journalism, but an attempt to censor speech they don't like. In a statement, the SPLC says Not the Bee writers work to dehumanize trans individuals, LGBTQ, and immigrants. This divisive commentary has no place in our society. They're outright saying that their goal is just to shut down opinions they don't like. This is the nature of the left ecosystem when it comes to mis and disinformation. So with Alex Jones being sued, I don't trust any of these people for 2 seconds. Him suing back, this is just lawfare in a cold civil war. I said it. But for real, this is no longer legitimate lawsuits across the board. I'm not speaking to any individual lawsuit when I say that. I'm saying people are suing everybody for crazy reasons, making up fake stories about each other. But I will say this. The right is winning. And I'll give you an example. I want to give a good shout out to my friend Destiny. Oh, there's Milo, by the way, wearing a beanie. I wonder what that means. Here's a Destiny making it so easy for the right to win. And I'd like to shout him out. I think Destiny is probably a sleeper agent for the right. I'm only half kidding. He is so vitriolic and angry, and he looks like drug-addled. I'm not trying to be a dick, but he does. That it easily discredits the left. Listen to this.
And then they'll go to the alternative media landscape. And the reality is, and I will die on this hill to any person, epidemiologist, whoever wants to debate this, virologist, whatever, almost every single conspiracy about the vaccines was dead wrong. Mm-hmm. The mass injuries never happened. The mass myocarditis, pericarditis, heart problems, the mass death events, all of these things, none of that happened. And everybody that was pushing that, your Tim Pools, and then they'll go to the...
Never pushed it. I literally never pushed it. Now here's the best part. You all know I never did. What did I say about the vaccines? Talk to your doctor. Don't take medical advice from a podcaster. I don't know. I also said, I really don't think we're going to see mass die-off events. That sounds too movie-esque and ridiculous. I mean, maybe it's normalcy bias or optimism bias, but there's not going to be a reality where they give everybody vaccines and everyone's just dropping dead. There were some conspiracies where they were like, the Georgia Guidestone said 500 million. This is it. There were people thinking there was going to be 1 billion dead. I'm like, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. Here's the best part. What did I explicitly state about the vaccines? I said vaccine injuries are real and rare, but that's admitted. That's not a secret. Doctors will tell you there are risks of side effects for any medication. And so, as I've always pointed out, and rather proudly so, I call it the scaling problem. I have made this point in many regards with many different things. And I'll explain it like this. If Apple issues 100 limited edition iPhones and 1% break, nobody cares. You get 100 people post on social media saying my phone is great, and one guy goes, hey, my phone broke. And people don't care. It's one guy saying his phone broke, and they're like, I wonder what happened. Now scale that up to 100 million phones being released and 1% break. Well, now you've got 1 million people on social media blasting how their phone is broken. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, whoa, what's happening? Why is everyone's phone broken? That's the scaling problem. The tolerance for failure decreases as the pool increases. What does that mean for vaccines? What a lot of people are seeing when they're pointing out cases of myocarditis, which happened to family members. I know people personally who went to the hospital. It doesn't mean that vaccines were causing this high rate. It means that if there are known side effects of medication, and you give out hundreds of millions of them, the same percentage of side effect will affect the same percentage of people. But with the scaling problem, the larger pool means there's a lower tolerance for these margins of error or side effects. That is to say, myocarditis did happen. Pericarditis did happen. We didn't see mass die-offs or anything like that. I never said that would happen. I said the percentage rate of side effects are comparable to any other vaccine, and as I can see in the data. But don't take it from me because I'm not a doctor. I don't know. And I genuinely mean this. Like, I think it's ridiculous if you go to political podcasters for medical opinions. Not a good idea. But it's the scaling problem. I stand by that. You give out 1,000 doses of a medication that has a 0.1% side effect rate and one person gets sick. Nobody cares. You give this to 100 million people, and now 100,000 people are suffering side effects, and you're seeing stories pop up. You're seeing people say, I know someone who was injured. I can't believe it. It's like, yeah, because 100 million people got this. Now let's talk about the COVID issue. People were getting 4 of them. And so if there is a side effect rate, you're looking at your standard side effect percentage, which is really low. Again, ask a doctor, don't talk to me about it. Multiply that by 4 for people who are getting their 4th dose, and you will see a lot of stories from people, not because there was a mass die-off, but because this thing was all over the world, everywhere, and they were requiring more than 1 dose. I know tons of people got vaccinated. They're fine. I know some people who had side effects because a lot of people got it. That being said, not to relitigate COVID, but to point this out, as Destiny has stated in this interview with Shane Smith of Vice, my old employer, by the way, he makes it so easy to dismantle and break down the left's positions. So I call him a sleeper agent, because as he says these things, the average person can look up any one of my videos and be like, that's an easily disprovable lie. Like, that's crazy. A really great example is when I was on Piers Morgan. Gizmodo wrote a fabrication that they put in my Wikipedia page, by the way. It's a total fabrication saying that Tim Pool sought ivermectin upon getting sick with COVID. That's a lie. I have spoken out against ivermectin. Watch me on the Joe Rogan podcast during COVID, and I said, I don't think it does anything. I think that ivermectin cures worms, and people whose immune system is bogged down by worms take it. It alleviates the worms, freeing up their immune system, which then has a better response to COVID, so they think it's helping them. And it kind of is, but not in that way. Joe argued with me. He said ivermectin was a protease inhibitor, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't believe it. I think it's a lot of wishful thinking from a lot of people, and I don't see it. I don't. And some people say, oh, Tim, you're too trusting of the corporate press. Don't care. Talk to a doctor. So what happened? I got COVID. I said, I don't want it. Monoclonal antibodies, which was an approved treatment by the FDA, is what I got. And I credited for making me better and said, I got better from monoclonal antibody IV drip. And then it was like 4 days later, my doctor prescribed ivermectin. I said, I don't need it. I don't want it. I never cared for it. Gizmodo writes a fake article claiming that I sought it out, which is an absolute lie. What happens? I go in Piers Morgan, and this liberal woman says, Tim Pool's a COVID denier who ended up getting COVID and then tried to take ivermectin. And I said, what? Not only have I never denied COVID, but I never sought out ivermectin, and I only sought out FDA-approved treatments. And she looked like a moron and then shut up because she was like, oops. You see, they read the fake news and then run into this problem. Another really good example outside of me is Dave Smith. There's this viral moment where Dave Smith, libertarian guy, is on Kennedy, on Fox Business, and he's talking smack about Biden. They say, oh, you Trump supporters. Well, Trump did this. And then Dave's like, I don't like Donald Trump. You're right. Trump's bad. He did these things. Right. Michael Malice points out, these people can only exist in this binary where if you don't side with them, then you must believe the opposite. Whereas you could sit here and be like, I think they're both bad. And they'll say, you support Trump. Okay. This is what makes it easy to defeat the left in the long run. Destiny makes things up. He's when he talks, he's doing this thing with his mouth that people call meth mouth. I'm not saying that he does meth. I don't know. I think people have claimed that he says he's got an Adderall problem. And so he's got this jaw rocking issue, which it's like a teeth grinding thing when he talks. I'll give you my opinion on the guy. For people who don't pay attention and don't actually watch the news, they just hear this and they believe it. Now he's made a false claim against me. I'll tell you why he did. I said on Timcast IRL, we've had Destiny on twice. He can't come on the show anymore. Not because I have personal beef. I don't care. He's allowed to make his arguments, but it's because he glorified the death of Corey Comprator. And that is against the rules. He gloated, doubled and tripled down, and in later shows advocated for the death of Trump supporters. And I said, yeah, you can't come on YouTube and do those things. You'll get banned. In fact, I think he did get hit on Twitch for something like this. So we don't invite people on the show who have expressed on numerous occasions a desire or glorification of murder and political violence. He pointed out Laura Loomer when she called for when she said the penalty for death is penalty for treason is death. We cut the show and said, We don't do that here. Even if it's a legal issue, we don't do that. Not only is it against the rules, I don't want to be a part of any of that escalation. He's not welcome. That's when he snaps, starts making up lies. The reality is, Destiny really fell off. We had him on the show twice, and he was fine. He's a wild guy. His wife left him, and I feel for the guy. But this really made him unhinged and emotionally unstable. That's the fact. That's the reality. There's a viral clip people share all the time where he says, I know my wife is sleeping with other men, but I'm fine with it because we love each other and she'll come back to me. I don't know if it's the same woman. He said, my girlfriend, but eventually his wife does leave him for some other guy. He then tries to play it cool, but it's very clearly emotionally devastating for the guy. Since pointing this out, rather dispassionately, I'm not trying to dig on the guy. I feel bad for him. He's gone nuts coming after me. Yeah, well, say la vie, dude. I appreciate that he lies to a certain degree because it's easily debunkable and we can rip apart the whole fake news system. But I'll wrap it up there. Maybe I'll have to go on Shane Smith's show and see how he's doing. I think I have tremendous respect for Shane. I've been a big fan for a long time, but I really think he screwed everything up and he wasn't paying attention enough. And that's why Vice burned down. I have no problem speaking candidly about people. I'm not going to play this game where I'm like, oh, I hope Shane interviews me. I better not say mean things about him. He's a rich guy. Nah, get out of here. Shane made his mistakes. And I remember working for him. I remember hanging out with him and talking about these things. And then I remember what happened to Vice and where it is now in the gutter and worth nothing in bankruptcy. That's a sad state. I'm going to wrap it up there, though. We got more segments coming up today. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Become a member over at timcast.com. Join the movement. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all at noon in the next segment.